Hi, my name is Brett Linkletter, CEO and founder of Misfit Media, the best damn restaurant marketing agency on the planet. Here at Misfit, we help restaurant owners grow and scale their business through strategic online marketing practices. Right now, you're listening to our podcast, Restaurant Misfits, where we'll discuss all things related to restaurant marketing, management, and everything else in between growing a restaurant business. This podcast is also brought to you in collaboration with Total Food Service. For over 30 years, Total Food Service has provided the restaurant and food service industry with exclusive interviews to the latest news on products, trends, associations, and events. You can sign up for a free monthly subscription by visiting totalfood.com today. And from all the misfits over here, we hope you enjoy the show. Cheers. In this episode, I interview Adam Bossie, the CEO and co-founder of Afficionado Coffee. Adam launched Afficionado back in 2008 and has been on a mission to grow the business year over year since. As of today, Afficionado is now one of the most respected coffee purveyors around the choice of many of New York City's top restaurants, as well as big-time businesses like Instagram. Adam left a solid career in finance to pursue his coffee company and couldn't be happier about his decision. Starting a brand with little experience in this industry and with zero investment dollars was tough, but he says he's enjoyed every step of the journey along the way. Adam's close relationships with coffee purveyors in Africa and Central and South America have allowed his team to develop a variety of unique coffee products for both wholesale and retail markets. And as the pandemic hit, he began allocating more and more resources towards hitting a direct-to-consumer market. We discussed many topics from building a brand with a story, growing a team of excited employees, how traveling inspires him and his business plans, and his learnings as he explores more of the digital strategy for his brand. And so let's dive right in. Adam Bossie, how you doing?
Brett, nice to see you. Thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to chat. So you are the CEO and co-founder of Afficionado Coffee Roasters. You guys have been killing it. Tell me about how you guys been the last year or so. How's everything going during this crazy time we're all experiencing?
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly, a lot has changed in the dynamic, especially in New York, of how we're operating. We started this company in 2008. And our focus, since day one has always been on wholesale until, of course, COVID happened. And so we've been playing around with the idea of switching tracks a little bit and expanding a little bit into the D2C market. And I think that, clearly COVID has catapulted us heavily into that segment. But, we've learned, we've been really nimble and we've, started looking at other wholesale segments like Florida and Texas and, states further south that are, kind of bouncing back a little bit faster than New York. So we're very lucky and grateful and things are pretty good.
Yeah. So you were saying you're more focused on getting in retail stores and maybe restaurants and things like that. And now you're going more direct to consumer because of the pandemic?
Yeah. So, typically how people start in our industry is, most of our competitors have started as retail coffee shop operators and then realize that, there's this whole other market, which is wholesale. And For us, I left the finance industry, started this company, had no idea what I was doing. I knew that failure wasn't an option, but I was very frugal out of the gate. So when you have a retail operation, it consumes a ton of resources and funding. So we never really had that. So we always stuck to wholesale, which was, pretty easy to grow as long as your product is amazing and you're telling a story that you're passionate about. And so that's always been our thing. In the past year, we've hired our creative director. So we've definitely allocated more resources to the D2C sector. And, I thought it was going to be a lot harder to build that piece. I mean, there's so many people that go into our media team. But we have a really organic story that, comes from the heart. And, for me, I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to admit that, I'm not the typical guy that owns a coffee roaster or a girl that, is a coffee fanatic. I like coffee. It was a focal point for my family growing up. It was always something that was shared around great conversation. But for me, it's about the farm and the social commitment. That is what I love about it so much.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I wish I wasn't such a coffee fanatic, but I am. I am an absolute
I mean, I love
coffee
coffee.
fiend. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But I am addicted. I'm very much addicted. And by the way, your guys' coffee, which I received last week, is fantastic. Just so you guys know, it's delicious. It really is.
Well, the
Yeah.
whole thing about growing a great company is, of course, myself as a CEO, I like to think that I am a pretty solid leader. But I think the most important to being a great leader is hiring, the best, most diverse team and always plugging someone where there's a void. And so,
Yeah.
from the support role of me building the inroads into Latin America and Africa and, trekking there, 3 to 4 months out of the year, I was able to open the doors to then bring in people that would really excel best. And so
Yeah.
we never had the mentality that, just because I'm the CEO, I can do everything the best. You always leave an open door for anybody that is willing to seize the opportunity. So, and I have the best team in the world. I mean, my collective, we're a small group. It's 11 full-time people. And then we have some consultants for like PR and stuff like that as we're going through COVID. But it's a tight knit crew, and I couldn't do it without them.
100%. So you guys are still obviously doing your wholesale. You're doing direct to consumer. What percentage of your revenue is split amongst the two, and how many retailers are you in, by the way?
Yeah, so for sure. So wholesale is still even through COVID about 90% of our revenue. Sorry,
Okay.
98% of our revenue.
Oh wow. Okay.
For us, despite transferring resources into D2C, I learned early on by seeing advertisements pop up on Instagram. We talk about coffee, Instagram, they trace what you're saying. So, you see advertisements for, I'll say it, brands like La Colombe, which have done an amazing job getting to where they are. But the last thing we wanted to do is post ads that made us look like we're thirsty or trying to push product or discount product with promotion codes. And we're trying to do it in a fashion where we're staying very true to our core. Good product costs money, and everything that we do at the farm wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be able to sell our coffee if we weren't doing all these things at the farm. So, the reason why it costs what it does, and so you always get what you pay for. And so that's also mention we're one of the, if not the only mid-sized roaster in the New York market that has no angel investor or private equity money behind us. So this is, we just don't have the resources to throw money at the wall for advertisements, and we're not looking to sell out like so many brands have done over the past 5 years, as you've seen.
Yeah, I respect that, by the way, man. I mean, me personally, I've never taken any investments for any businesses I've started, and I respect people who don't. I respect that you need it sometimes. Sometimes there's just no way around it, right? Sometimes you got to seek money, right? Of course. But for those who are able to do what you're doing without investor money, without private equity money, I mean, damn, I respect that, because you learn the value of a dollar and how far that dollar can go so much better, in my opinion. I mean, we talk about the hustle behind it, the grit behind it, that shapes you into that kind of businessman that you are. You know what I mean? At least I feel that way, right? I mean, that's badass.
I think, and, we talked about Chernow before, I think that I shared some of these things with him, and it's, he asks the question, is it, instilled in you from birth, or do you learn it as you go on? And I think for me, I grew up in an upper middle class family. I'm not going to, say that I grew up impoverished and I made struggles, but my family was always strict with their spending. We were never frivolous. And so I do think that was instilled in me. And then in 2008, when we started our company, it was, the financial crisis. And so we had to have so many things happen for our coffee company with so little money. So now, we have unfortunately seen a lot of competitors struggling through COVID because they're, very fat on rent and they have a lot of locations. So for us, we don't have that. And with my team, most of my team members have been with me pretty much since day one. So they know that when I say, listen, it's back to bootstrap and reel it in, we know exactly how to do it. And it's interesting because I've always stuck with my finance roots. I've always managed a trading account. It's not something I've gone into during COVID, like so many of my friends have. And so I've always found it my hobbies are I actually really love reading about companies and how they grow, whether they're, privately or publicly traded companies. And so I won't mention the company, particularly, but I was bothered by a CFO of a very prominent company this way during earnings calls saying like, what we started doing during COVID is, doing a weekly burn of like what our expenditures are. For me, like, I don't care what size the company is, you should know every single week, what you're burning. And so many companies to find out that they're not doing that when you hit a situation like COVID, how do you possibly even know where to start? So I think like sometimes like the basic things that you start with, you should have them with you throughout the journey of your career.
100%. 100%. No, I think that's really cool, man. So you guys, and I'm reading my notes here. I mean, you guys are pretty, I mean, primarily in the New York City area, right? That's where you guys are based out. That's where you guys have expanded quite a bit, right?
Yeah. So, we've learned a lot, and, we've made a ton of mistakes over the years. And, one of the mistakes was, we hooked in with several prominent chefs over the years, and, they would maybe venture out to Chicago to open a restaurant, or, one of the ski resorts in Colorado. We had a few in the Midwest. And so, we learned over time, like, we're a small company working, you have so much opportunity in New York. It's the best playground to have a business, basically execute as much as you can there and focus on that. And it's okay to turn down some business or turn away some business, even if there's a relationship there. That being said, other markets that we have expanded heavily into to where it is scalable for us are Boston, Philadelphia, DC, a little bit of Baltimore, and like I said, Miami and Texas, especially like Dallas area, has been like a very big target for us, where we've had a ton of restaurateurs from New York heading down there, and it's been great. It's
got it.
Things are kind of slow in New York right now, so we're focusing our team into Miami to try to hire some people, build that team out, and then when New York comes back, we're here ready to rip.
100%. What's it been like in New York as of recently? I mean, like, look, a lot of our clients are in New York. Our agency works with clients all over the country and also in Canada. And so, I am always looking at like, hey, like it's hard for me to keep track of everything that's going on. Everything's changing every day, right?
Right.
You look at Miami and things are basically back to normal, right?
Yeah.
You look at New York and it's definitely not.
I've always been pretty optimistic, but real about COVID since the onset. And, of course, everybody has friends where they're on both sides of the spectrum. And, for me, of course, there's days I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing in New York still? Like, why? I mean, I've left a little bit to travel, but the whole notion to me, like, again, I go back to 2008 when things were really bad. I can't understand why any real entrepreneur, anyone that started from the bottom would not want to be in New York right now. Because New York, people that say New York's not going to rebound, New York's New York. It's always going to be New York. I don't care how much traffic Miami's getting, Tulum's getting, all these places.
Yeah.
Stuff that's going to happen, that's going to be great in like 5 years, 10 years in New York is happening right now. So for me, it's like, this is my home. It's not, it's not seasonal. I don't let go of New York just because it's having its hard times. Like, this is when you want to be here to embrace it.
Got it. I mean, I've heard similar things for, let's just say, the tech industry, right, in San Fran, right? We're based in Los Angeles, but I'll tell you, as of the last couple of years, there's been this massive tech boom here, right? A lot of people are realizing I don't need to be in the Bay Area to be in tech because, of course, everything's 100%. Going online, and obviously because of COVID now, things are spread even more so. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like in some ways, look, I love New York too. New York is absolutely awesome. It's badass. There's so many great things happening there. But we're noticing, as an agency, just like the e-commerceization of so many of these brands, specifically in the restaurant space, right? I mean, I spoke to a coffee shop yesterday. They have 12 locations. And their number one initiative this year is how do we become an online brand? How do we become maybe like what you guys are looking at? How do we be more D2C, right?
Yeah.
And so for them, rather than looking at their next location, they're like, hey, we want to be an e-commerce brand. We want to be not specific to any location at all. We want to serve worldwide. You know what I mean?
Yes. So it's interesting because possibly one of our biggest hurdles why we haven't had faster organic growth is because we never had the presence of a retail shop. And it's always, since day one, I've said, no way, we're not doing it. I don't even want to consider it. And then right before COVID, on the corner of where I live on 54th and 11th, there's this like really awesome little shop that was up for rent. And so I looked at it and I kicked it around for a little bit. And I was like, you know what? I just don't really want to get into retail. And then COVID happens. And the broker called me and he's like, this is what I could do for you. And it wasn't even a thought. I was like, no brainer. So, it's funny because people are running away from retail right now. I always tell my team, take the blinders off, don't always be open to opportunities if they change. And so for us, like, I never wanted to get into retail. This presented itself and it's a great opportunity. So I'm not going to say no. And I think that that's what's really important, regardless of if you're in hospitality or whatever industry is, you got to constantly, look at opportunities, even if you've turned them down before in the past.
So you guys, you've opened it, or you're in the process of opening a retail store?
We're in the process of opening it. So we break grounds actually this week. I've been saying that for a while, but this week we are breaking grounds. And
I do the same thing, man.
It's like, when you have so many things going on, it's just like, and then you look up every once in a while, you're like, oh, we've advanced a little bit. So we're breaking ground this weekend. Actually, after we wrap up today, I'm going to meet the contractors to give them the keys. So we're really excited about it.
Wow.
And it's going to be, it's, for us, like retail, I don't look at it as like a revenue generator. It's more of like a marketing piece. We're doing it as a flagship. We hired this fantastic girl, Lula, who is Giuliano, who is doing all of our, decoration inside and design work, and her work's awesome. So it's really embracing our brand and our values and our identity. We're having artists from all over the world. Some of my friends from like South America creating art pieces for it. So it's really to bring in and embody like everything that we believe in at Afficionado.
That's awesome. Well, hey, congrats, man. I mean, I love that, but I think it's cool that you're open-minded to all this stuff. I mean, look, like you said, we're never going to a retail store. Now you guys are, right? Times have changed. Right. I mean, I'll tell you, obviously this podcast is mostly just restaurateurs. Our audience is mostly restaurateurs, people in the restaurant space in general, food and drink space. The one thing that everyone can agree with right now is, COVID's been a pain in the ass, but hey, a lot of opportunities have opened up. Hey, rent is at an all-time low. A lot of cool new spaces just opened up, right? So, hey, take advantage of that.
Yeah. I mean, look at David Burke. I mean, I think you interviewed him not too long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, David was one of our first big clients. And, there was, outside of the fact that we're both Jersey guys, like he's the guy just has energy like no other, like no one can keep up with him. And he always finds his groove. So when I see clients of ours like this, and David's more than a client, he's one of my dear friends, it's so inspiring. And so I think, New York, maybe some will not like me saying this, but I think New York needed a little bit of a kick in the ass in the hospitality space. I think that, there was a lot of competition. I think that rents were out of control. I mean, your labor costs are continuously going up, and it's, we needed a little bit of a reset. So I do always believe, I don't mean to be cliche, but like there's always a silver lining in everything. And sometimes you need to go steps back to take a step forward.
Totally. Yeah, and David is a total badass. That guy's the man.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good dude. So how do you, I mean, I'm kind of curious, your marketing process now, how do you go about getting in front of restaurateurs and getting in retail space in these restaurants?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now we're just utilizing our time to spend as much quality time with our clients that we have. And just organically growing that relationship and them referring us to other customers or other potential customers. One of the things that we did during COVID, which was really cool. So we can talk about the back end of our coffee, but we have these coffee byproducts. So we at Afficionado have come up with a way to consume multiple parts of the coffee tree, not just the coffee bean. So we take the fruit, which is the cascara. There's other cascaras out there. A few guys in Brooklyn are making a drink out of it, but it's more of a novelty beverage. We've really taken each of these products and turned them into something that someone would want to have like every day. Like it's an amazing product. And so we took this product and we started making mixers for like cocktail mixers, because in the beginning, people were selling drinks on the street in New York. People were walking around with a cocktail in their hands, but restaurants didn't have the financial capabilities to bring their bartenders back in. So we made these like pre-mixed cocktails. So if they had one person running the restaurant, they could, do it on the fly. And so from that, we got a ton of great, we've connected with a lot of people through that. And, the word is spread about our business, about what we're trying to do and how we're thinking outside of the box. And I think that was like a huge step for us. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. No, that's cool, man. Because I mean, it is a competitive space being in the coffee business. I'm sure there are so many great coffee brands, but I'm wondering, in your guys' opinion, right? When you're approaching a restaurant and they say, well, hey, like you guys are cool, but I got this other guy that's maybe this better price or whatever the case. What does the sales process look like for you guys to get these guys on board?
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. And in the beginning, when I used to say this to my team, like they used to scratch their head and it was hard for them to digest, I think at times. I say to all of my clients openly, I say, great coffee isn't hard to find. I mean, you can go to an importer broker, never have to worry about direct trade, go into the farm and source great coffee. So for me, I think, or for us, the biggest thing, of course, is relationship is huge. And our commitment to like what we believe to be true sustainability, the fact that we carry that out and we express it, and it's seen like,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of great coffee. Like I said, with us, it's what we're doing at the farm that's really special. And so, if I could take it back to that, when I first started sourcing coffee, we did not go the general typical way a coffee roaster would go, which is, you work with specialty importers, which will send you great quality coffee. And then once you get to a certain size with them, they'll flip the bill to take you on a class trip down to origin. I never went that route. I come from a finance background. I had friends that were able to connect me with the really large producers. And of course, they were more on the commercial side, but we utilized them to find the nooks and crannies of the smaller producers that we wanted to. And we did this in a way with going around, these importers and, tying into projects that we really love. And so it's a very different dynamic than any other roaster that I know of has went about sourcing their coffee. And the relationship we have with our producers. I mean, some of my best friends are my coffee producers, and it's the coolest thing ever. And so
Totally.
with that, people are like, all right, yeah, great. You're friends with your farmer, but like, what does that do for me as your client? What it does is the fact that we have this tight relationship and that we share other connections like culinary and food and cooking and wine. We do these wine trips down to Argentina, to Mendoza. And, we found over the years that there's such a correlation between coffee production and wine, but coffee is like 40, 30 years behind the curve of wine. And so how can we take some of these technologies or systems and implement them in coffee so that our farmers produce, better quality coffee, lower their labor costs. And, so this is true sustainability. So doing this and then taking that knowledge and plugging it into other farmers that don't have the resources or the capabilities to do that, you're creating, stable pricing, because all of our coffees, unlike, again, the majority of the roasters out there, we are price fixated. And we're not price fixated on the C market. We're hedging ourselves in the C market, but we're price fixating with our farmers at a fair price that they can sustain growth and continue to implement new strategies year after year to better themselves and their community. So now how that translates to our customers, especially in the wholesale space, we were just talking about how, everything continuously gets expensive in restaurants. Like it's always cost going up. Coffee is a very small portion of a restaurateur's concerns, but it's one less thing that they have to worry about. And they always get that consistency with pricing and quality. And so it's huge. And so for us, like it's really sustainability. People talk about it broad stroke, but they don't really dive into like what it means to them. That's what it means to us. And it's creating an ecosystem that is, continuously evolving, but stable.
That's awesome. Well, no, I think you're right. People talk about sustainability. And I think the thing is, especially in the restaurant space, like you said yourself about the New York area specifically, I think you're right to say that people kind of need a little kick in the ass as of recently. I mean, it's so funny because I ask my clients all the time, or I joke with them all the time that, hey, at some point, I'm going to open a restaurant concept. And they say, oh, Brett, please don't stick to the marketing side. You never want to do this business. And they joke about it and they're lighthearted about it. But the truth of the matter is there is a lot of issues in the restaurant business. Rising costs all over the place, rising minimum wage all over the place, rising rent costs all over the place, not being able to raise the food costs, these and things. So what you're saying is a big deal, right? Massive.
100%.
I mean, and so the thing that with COVID is, again, it's woken people up to the problems that they have, right? People are rethinking, do I really need 5 servers? Maybe I only need 3. Do I really need this person and that person? I don't think so. Where are these other costs that we can cut down on? Where are the opportunities online that we're not thinking about, right? So I think people are thinking about this. And I think it's cool that you guys are doing that for sure. Um, so Adam, you had a pretty damn stable career, it seems like, in the financial space. And then you just basically dropped it to do this. What was like the big reason for that? What was the trigger to make you want to do that to
Yeah,
begin with?
for sure. So I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My brother is a self-starter, has several successful companies. My mother had started her younger career as an entrepreneur, and then would later finish out in real estate as well. And so I followed this over the course of my life, and you know I guess going to college and seeing what some of my friends' parents did, it was finance always intrigued me. And so I thought that was like the route that you should go. And so what I didn't realize is, I'll back up. In high school, I had my own business, and I had always had pretend businesses, like since I was like 5,
Mm.
and then I had this legitimate business. It was a car and boat detailing company in high school, carried that on through college, met a lot of clients that one of them would later go on to hire me in my finance career, working at the 3PM, this hedge fund marketing firm that I was working for. And I realized I loved finance, but I really didn't like working for someone. And so I become, I got used to being my own boss and calling my own shots. And I think that was the massive catalyst. Of course, the market started to change. A few of our funds that we were managing were starting to blow up. And the writing was kind of on the wall. And one of the things that I was realizing is, growing up, you might see the card behind me. Like, I had aspirations to buy things, but I realized as I got older that I didn't need all these things. And like, the things that really made me happy were things that involved like food and travel. And so, which I could do it in a luxurious fashion, or I could backpack it and be just as happy at the end of the day. So I think that was the catalyst for me, and being able to grow in an industry where I shared common, passions with people. It's the most fulfilling thing. It really is amazing. I mean, going down to Origin at times has been really dangerous, like, to say the least. Like, we were having a conversation at a dinner party last night about some of my encounters. But some of them have been the most like beautiful moments that I wish I could have cherished with my family or like friends back home, because nobody really understands. And it's amazing. Like, when I go down to Peru, it's a lot of hard work. Like, at times we'll stay up on the mountainside. It's 32 to 34 degrees at night, and you're freezing. There's no heat. There's no running water, nothing. But then, what makes it all worthwhile is seeing these group of villagers, like, succeed without having any of the resources that we have. And then, I get to go and stay at my friend Jan's plantation and walk out my front door and pick any tropical fruit that I want under the sun. So it's like, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Wow. No, that's cool, man. I mean, but it's cool that you had this realization. And I think to your point, you mentioned that, you had this aspiration that you wanted to buy these nice things and this and that, whatever. Man, I could say, in a lot of ways, I felt the same way. Being in the LA area, seeing all these flashy things, there's something really attractive about like getting some kind of crazy sports car and this and that, whatever. But I think, like you said, you made a good point that it's like, at the end of the day, it's really about, am I passionate about really what I'm doing? And this isn't just the means to the end, but like what I'm doing on a daily basis, is that actually what I want to do? And I think what's cool about the food and drink space in general is, like, I think everyone shares that and it is cognizant of that, right? It's like, a lot of these restaurateurs, they're doing it because they love to see people smile when they enjoy their product, right?
For sure.
They love
100%.
the journey. They love what it's about. So obviously it seems like doing this is giving you a lot more fulfillment, right? On a daily basis. I mean, it sounds awesome from my end, just saying.
Yeah, it's what makes it all worthwhile. And it's funny with the restaurant industry, again, going back to like rising costs, but I mean, I remember, on the onset of my career, and even like growing up in high school, I worked at a French restaurant part-time while I had this other business that I started. and it's where I really fell in love with food.
Yeah.
I noticed that chefs used to travel a lot more, like internationally,
Mm,
to get inspiration. And
interesting.
I get why I don't see it as much now, and it's so expensive. And so
Yeah.
I think that you kind of get stuck in this bubble, and from what I've seen from my chef friends, where it's like it's kind of redundant, and you're going through the motions, and you're looking at what the restaurant next to your right and to your left is doing, but you're not like stepping outside of your bubble and like traveling to see like what else exists. I mean, it's
Mm.
crazy. Like I go to South America and I'll eat fruit on my farm, and I'm like, we don't have this fruit in the States. Like, why? And it's like, there's still so many, as globalized as this world is, there's so many products that are delicious, ingredients that
Totally.
are not readily accessible here. So, there's evolution to be had. And I would love to see, if anything else, that we come out of this, and New York's restaurant scene, becomes better because of it.
I think you're totally right. There's I forgot where I read this one time, but it was something like the person you are today is only different from the person you are next year based on the experiences you've had, based on where you've traveled, and based on the books you've read. Right. And I think there's too many damn Americans that just, they don't travel enough. They're not inspired enough. They're just stuck in the way of doing things. Like, I mean, I make it a point for myself to travel quite often. I mean, like as an agency owner, my job is very demanding too, right? Like, I mean, it's hard for me to get away all the time, but I've created systems and processes that allow me to do that. I mean, next week I'm going to Dubai for a week, which, it's
Awesome.
damn other side of the world. But I'm going, and I'm actually going to meet a few restaurants out there. And, from what I hear, the place is totally like different. It's like Mars, compared to the United States. I'm hoping to get inspired from some cool shit, like that is what it's about. And I think
For
it's so
sure.
important to do that. You got to do it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to connect after the podcast, and I'll set you up with some great places there. It's
Oh,
awesome.
amazing.
But yeah, I think that it's 100% true. I'll go back to one of my stories from Mendoza, when I went down to the wine region
Yeah.
down there in Argentina, and going back to talking about how like my friends back home and my family don't really understand what I do. Like if I say I'm busy, they're like, well, what are you busy doing? You roast coffee, like, and you're working from home. So like, are you that busy? And I'm like, clearly you don't understand like what goes on behind the scene.
Totally.
So I took my mother down with several of our producers down to Argentina, and it was the first time that she really got to see inside of what I do and the inner workings of it. And so it's, until you're in it, you could talk about travel, but until you really go off the beaten path and like get a taste for it, you really don't know what you're missing out on. It's like, if you haven't experienced it, you're probably not missing out. But once you get a
Yeah.
taste of something really good, it's like, it makes you want to go further and further. And that's always
Mm.
been my drug, is travel. And it's not travel where, I'm having a conversation with a bunch of friends and it's like, oh, have you been to Mykonos? And it's like, yeah, I've been to Mykonos, like, or Tulum. It's like, I don't,
Yes.
if five people in the room are going to know of the destination you went to, I'm probably going to say that it wasn't that eventful for me. So I like really
Oh,
finding
interesting.
great opportunity. And yeah, it's amazing.
No, that's cool, man. I personally love South America too. I've gone to Brazil several times for New Year's. I love Colombia quite a bit. It's so cool and different, and I feel like that's really awesome. I mean, it seems like you've gotten a lot of inspiration. It's obviously come out into your business. It's come out to you and as a business owner. Talk to me about, how do you build your team? Because I think a lot of things for restaurant owners or business owners in general, owners like yourself, is how do we motivate our team members to share the same excitement that we do as owners? Do you have any kind of tips on that?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I'm glad you brought this up. So this is probably the biggest struggle with employment has been through COVID, and it's taught me a lot. And so, one of our sectors of business, which we didn't really hit on, is we're actually going heavily into institutional business. So, clients like Instagram, Facebook are our clients. We handle all their coffee in New York. And
Amazing.
so the main person that we work with there for fulfillment, often echoes like autonomy. And so like autonomy, I never really understood like, autonomy from a standpoint of being a small business owner and like how you could really have that. And When I started to really see my team accelerate on an individual basis was when I gave them that responsibility, that accountability, and that autonomy. And you gotta just make them realize, like, listen, it's okay to fuck up. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from it. And you give them that autonomy to go out and utilize their time the way that they think is best for them. And then you constantly reevaluate. And then you say, okay, implementing timelines and stuff like that. But not to get off topic of what your question was, I think autonomy and making them feel like they really own the position that they have. And I think, some would frown upon this, but I think putting them under the spotlight, and when you're like right now, we're completely tearing apart every layer of our company, and we're saying right now is no better time than ever to really look at everything and make everything better. I mean, that's always been our philosophy. Like every single day, like every day you wake up, you want to look behind to yesterday and say, like, every part of what we do is better, and ask yourself what you did to make it better. And so I think that a little bit of like friendly competition within the workspace is great. And so it's, we're a very tight knit group. We joke around a lot. We make fun of each other a lot, but we've created an ecosystem that is really friendly, and like we're there for a mission, and we want to be the best at our craft. And we've made it known that it's always on. We're always on, and our customers are first, and whatever they request from us, we make it happen. And that's our simple philosophy that we live by.
100%. No, I mean, I like what you're saying though. I think a lot of employees, they're scared to make mistakes, right? And I think it's good to encourage that it's okay to make mistakes just as long as you learn from it. I mean, I know from speaking with friends that are in the VC world and private equity world is like, they say that the biggest reason for a business's success or not is just action. It's action takers. It's just, hey, like people who take action, and either you do something and then it's wrong and then you learn maybe the right way the next time, or you do something and then it's right and then it helps you. But not doing anything isn't helping anyone, right?
Yeah.
So,
and I think going back to like our initial start back in 2008, we didn't have, I think probably the best thing that we did was that we didn't open coffee shops, and we didn't promote ourselves as fast as a lot of other companies do. And that allowed us to kind of make mistakes behind the scenes and not be under a microscope. So, we learned from very early on a lot of the mistakes that we don't want to repeat, and we learned what works well for us. But I think, I think like you should never have a moment where you're sitting there and really spending a half a day contemplating if something is a good action or not. Like if you're contemplating it hard, move on, and then if you have time, come back to it. But,
100%.
always keep the cylinders firing. And, there's not a day that goes by at Afficionado where a new project or opportunity doesn't, present itself. So, if that ever happens, that's when I'm concerned.
100%. Random question for you, Adam. How do you personally get better as an owner, as a CEO? What do you personally do to get better every day?
Yeah. So I think that, Gary Vee often talks about it. He says empathy. And I think, finding that perfect balance between being a boss and someone that your employees can talk to is the hardest thing. And it's something that I can, on a continuous basis, try to like improve on. And I think that is the most important when you're building your foundation. I mean, we've been around for 13 years now, but I still look at myself as like a startup, like a very young company. Like where we're going is nowhere in comparison to where we are today. Like we have very big ambitions and plans for ourselves. And I think that it's not possible without having the most robust and sound foundation. And that's our core. And I tell everybody in my office, you're still, one day we're going to have 100 employees, and the fact that we only have 11, we operate as a business that probably on a similar size of us has like 30. So we're lean and mean, and everybody here has the opportunity to continuously be a director or a department head. And so I think being there to consult and talk to my employees and always have an open door policy, I think that has continuously made me better. And I think that there's a trust factor there. And, that continuously makes me better as an owner.
Any kind of books or mentors that you've utilized that have made a big impact for you?
Yeah. So I think my biggest mentor these days, I mean, it's a lot of people's mentors, is probably Elon Musk. And I think
Love
it's funny.
Elon.
Yeah. It's like the guy's brilliant, and he's brilliant. And I think that, people that try to wrap their mind around constantly putting an evaluation on Tesla, it's like, do you not get it? You're investing in Elon. You're investing in, knowing that he's never going to stop. And so, it's always like a catch-up effect. And so Elon's very inspirational in me. I think that he, there's guys out there like Gary Vee, who's also a client of ours, and I have a ton of respect for.
Wow.
He often talks about, how to open the door and get your start. But I think Elon really talks about, okay, now you're a business owner. This is the next step. And I think that he gives the best clarity into that. I don't really have time to read books. I mean, I read about companies, and I learn about companies that I love. Those are my passions when I'm not doing that. I started flying lessons 8 years ago, and I put it down, and it's something that I'm going to, take time to finish out, because it's always been a dream of mine to have a small prop plane. So
amazing.
I just don't have that much time to read, unfortunately, like for other things like that.
100%.
So I don't really follow too many podcasts. There's a few people out there that I really enjoy. I'll catch an episode every once in a while, but for me, it's more like self experiences.
Yeah. 100%. No, and I think that's something that everyone learns differently, right? Like everyone has their own thing that works for them. It's just a matter of what works for you, right? Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about some people who are just always analysis paralysis, always reading, always learning, but never making the move. And then they're getting rid of that.
It's like, it's like anything, right? We're talking about chefs. Like, it's like the chef that has learned by putting in the sweat, in a kitchen versus like in a classroom, or, my finance friends that, they're brilliant people, but they've never actually worked on a trading desk. They've only went and gotten their MBA. And so like, you gotta learn hands-on. You need both. So if you get caught up in just watching podcasts, I think people like yourself, Gary Vee, Elon, they're great for that moment where like, it's like a work coach, right? You give that inspiration like whenever you hit that hurdle, but then you got to go out and do it. You got to train, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you're right.
You got to put in the work, but for an inspirational piece, it's amazing.
100%. No, I think that's really cool. I mean, for us, we've had so many different mentors over the years, and it's almost, I think some people, they kind of know what they have to do, but then they kind of just need someone to tell them to do it. Oftentimes it's just like, dude, you know what to do. Just go for it. just do it.
I say it all the time.
Yeah.
Engagement is the number one. It's the hardest part. And it's like a snowball, you start to do things, and earlier on, I think it still happens occasionally. My team members will be like, you're fucking crazy, right? Do you know what you're requesting right now? And I'm like, you're overthinking it. Just like do it. And if it blows up, blame it. Like put it on me. And then it's totally like, you see them go out and they take action a few times, and they look back, and I was like, so now explain to me, like, what do you see? Like, why were we able to do this, and why were we not able to do it before? And so this builds confidence within themselves in a way that they never had. And so it creates this snowball effect. And it's like, you've tried this, now you want to try this, now you want to try this. And it takes the blinders off, and it makes it easier to see that nothing's impossible.
Yeah. I love that, man. I think that's great. I mean, the best part of what you just said, though, which I think probably went over a lot of people's heads, is just letting your employees, letting your team figure out what worked and what didn't. Let them do the problem solving. Don't just holding everyone's hands through this. I see too many restaurateurs doing this. Too many business owners doing this.
Micromanaging is a horrible thing. It's
awful.
It's awful. And sometimes employees they like to be micromanaged, whether they see that or not. And if you're growing a team as quickly as we're trying to grow, like there's no room for that. You need people that are comfortable with being in the abyss and like
Yeah.
running with it. And that's when you're a growing company and you're doing great things, like that's the kind of team you want.
100%. So a question I think a lot of people are asking themselves right now is how they become more direct to consumer. I mean, again, specifically in the retail, restaurant, hospitality space, a lot of clients we speak to and a lot of clients or potential clients we're looking at talking to you on a daily basis, they're looking to expand their channels online, direct to consumer, shipping their product, right? Obviously, for you guys, it's
Sure.
been a big initiative as of the last year. What are some of the learnings you've taken from that, and maybe what are some recommendations you'd give people who are diving into that space?
Yeah, so we've had great mentorship through this. Again, going back to the team over at Vayner Group, like I said, they're
Yep.
clients of ours. Zubin, who basically spearheads their web media side, he's an LA guy or California guy. He's been really guiding us through this whole process. So one of the things that the hardest thing for me to accept early on when we first teamed up with them was that, he told me, Adam, you want your website to tell your story. Websites are no longer meant to tell a story. They're meant for people to go and execute, get what they want, what they came for, and execute and get out as quickly as possible. And that your means of communication and telling your story is social media. So prior to COVID, we've never had an ad. We never had any directives to drive people or drivers to drive people to our website to shop. And right now we're in the process of building out a Shopify website. And so I was completely against Shopify prior to really learning about them and what advantages they offer. And so, now we're utilizing Instagram, and our Instagram is like really, if you look at it, it's kind of all over the place because our company is so dynamic in what we do, getting filters and pictures to all look the same. When we're taking photos at origin, at our roastery, at our clients' places, like there's so many different looks and elements to tie it all together. But Gary instilled in me very, very early on that like, you guys have content that everybody wishes they had, just like pump it out and let social media, Instagram, Facebook, those mediums, like get your story out there and let the website do what it's there to do, which is make it easy for people to get to your product and get it to their doorstep as quickly as possible. And
I have to agree with that. Yeah.
So it's our new website, which is rolling out in about a month. It's going to be completely different. It's going to focus less on really telling the story and more on just giving people easy access to our product. And, we're also we're pivoting away from like storylines and writing these like elaborate, people don't want to read anymore. Right. So something that I started doing down at the farms about 3 or 4 years ago is, I started recording all of our interactions, like even our negotiations, like full transparency, what we're paying for green coffee at the farm. Damn. And so like people talk about, transparency, sustainability, and they write it on a piece of paper and nobody knows if it's true or not. But, the fact that we put this like video clip together, you can watch the full 10-minute clip, or you can watch the condensed version that's like going to be 30 seconds and really see what we do and see the transparency in it. And that's what our website's going to be. It's going to be like, if you do want to learn about the product, there's a video to watch, or you could just check out. And I think that's a pivot that has changed significantly in web-based sales over the past year.
Yeah. Yeah. You want the website to convert and then you said like your social to tell the story. I mean, damn, man, it's pretty cool. You could talk to Gary about this stuff too. I mean, he's the king,
He gave us like some pretty awesome insight. I did a segment with him, Gary, Tea with Gary V, not too long ago as well.
Nice.
He's great. I mean, the whole Vayner team has been like super helpful with us. So,
amazing.
I think, hospitality, regardless of the industry, it's again, I say ecosystem a lot, but it's really the collaborations you have within that ecosystem. And, I've learned so much from David Burke from a hospitality standpoint. I've learned so much from my friends in finance about how to, build conservative financial models. I've learned so much from our tech companies that we work with about autonomy. And so I think that you kind of got to always get out of your comfort zone and meet new people from other industries. And it just keeps opening doors and opportunities that you might not have ever realized. So I think it's super important.
I think you brought up a good point here too, but it's basically it's knowing what you're good at and what you're bad at and knowing when to seek help. It's like
Yeah.
I spoke to a guy last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. His name's Alex Cantor. He owns a business called Ordermark. I'm not sure if you've heard of them before. They're just killing it. It's got $120 million from SoftBank in investments. It's like Series C investment. They're just murdering it. I mean, this and the guy's, I believe he's 27 years old. He's just super genius. But we talked a lot about, a lot of people in the hospitality space, they have this resistance to some of this new technology. They have this resistance. So I can still do mailers and it can still work. Television is still a thing. Yeah, of course it is. But come on, there's better channels. And there's just somewhere this resistance. And I think that's hurting a lot of restaurateurs. And I think those people, they're unfortunately out of business now, probably,
Yeah, well, it's, there's always two sides to every story, or three, right? Both sides and something in the middle. I think, again, we could talk all day long about, what goes into operating a restaurant and the expenses that are behind it. I mean, technology is great and it'll catapult you. But like, even going back to like us transferring to D2C, getting started with Instagram ads, and, we even dabbled with the idea of Amazon just to like, see what happened during COVID. And it's expensive. And before you really start to see your positive cash flow off that, it's a lot of times, especially now with restaurants, like they don't have the capital to beta test. And so, talking about how we've pivoted and, our wholesale team, we've grown 2 salespeople, but the side of our team that really exponentially grew was our media marketing team. And, my company used to throw around, we never spend any money on marketing, and I went to college for economics and marketing, and I'll admit, like, my understanding of marketing and what it is in branding and what it is today versus when I went to school 2001 to 2005, it's completely different. And so our brand and media team, it's Joe, my creative director, it's Katie, who handles our PR. We have a guy, Alex, who does all of our beta test analysis, to see what sticks. We have our designer who basically sets up all our photo shoots. Then we have our photographer and videographer. I mean, that's 5 people. That media team, which mostly are consultants, is almost half the size of my full-time staff. So there's a lot of resources that are needed to go into it. I would love to see platforms that kind of tie all those elements and make it accessible to especially people in the restaurant.
It's a lot of money. It's hard to dive into all of a sudden. 100%.
Absolutely.
What about this, Adam? So you obviously you're doing so many interesting things, and it sounds like you're creating your own cool story in itself. I'd say, and it how important is let's just say your personal brand, you think, for your brand? Is that something that you're investing in that you think means a lot to the business, means a lot to your consumers, your customers?
Yeah. So again, going back to saying there's no shortage of really great coffee in the industry, I think that people are looking for something that like kind of sticks out and stands on its own. And I think that, when we tell the stories of everything that we're doing on the farm, our involvement on the community level, I think people want to buy products that they feel like they contributed to society in some aspect. And, the fact that we also don't have any venture capital and that every dollar that we make is reinvested into what our core values are. I think people want to support businesses like that. Cold brew, truth is I actually don't drink a lot of cold brew, and it's one of our biggest sellers. And so, when we were starting out, we used to sell to Whole Foods, and we were in about 18 locations. We were going into 21 locations. Truth is, we were making no money on Whole Foods. We were making, I think our net was like less than 3%, all said and done. And it was really hard to work with them. And they had asked us if we had a cold brew line then, and we didn't. And so we decided to pull away from them. But one of my biggest issues was that Whole Foods, they used marketing that was really easy for people to understand. And so they broad stroke a lot of things a lot of the brands that they talk about. And so for us, like, we're trying to deep dive, and I told you we're doing videos and all this stuff. So, now like you go into a Whole Foods and you go to the cold brew section and there's like 30 different brands on there, and you try every single one of them and there's maybe like 2 or 3 that are good. And so we never rush to market just to have a product to be in the market. We only bring products to the table if it's exceptional. And so our cold brew is like, we use twice the amount of coffee in it that anybody else uses. We didn't go out and buy some brewer that, you know, is now manufactured for people producing cold brew. We didn't go to some third party to produce it for us, like so many guys in New York are doing right now. It's crazy. Like even like the big guys are doing outsourcing this. We created our own system. We learned how like breweries worked. We hired a kid that worked at a brewery the next town over from us, and we brought it together and we did everything from the ground up. And our customers see this. So I think that, yes, our story and everything that what we do, I think people now trust that, you know, we want to work with Afficionado because we know that they're never going to cut a corner.
Awesome. Adam, have you ever said this in any of your marketing videos, what you just told me?
No.
Why the hell not?
Because, well, you know, listen, the hardest thing to talk about, I can say the hardest thing to do.
I just got sold. I'm already sold, but that was awesome.
The hardest thing for a company to do when you are involved in so many different things, like you can go back to like Tesla, like it's like people are like, oh, it's their batteries. Oh, it's like their engineers and how they don't think like the guys at Ford or Chevy, like they think outside the box. When you have so many different things, we just did an attribute survey. And so we looked at every element of what we do as a business. Right. And so it's funny, like, you know, you look at let's take a coffee company that, you know, they focus on like surfers, right? And like all their social media is like surfing photos with a cup of coffee. That's their target audience. It's not really about the coffee. It's more about a lifestyle. And so for us, we have this social community awareness. We have this agriculture love. We have this, the fact that we import and that we have the financial arm of where we have pricing stability. And then we have our roastery, where we didn't even talk about our roaster and how cool it is. It's vintage roaster, and like Peter Turso, who went to CIA, is our roast master. Like we don't roast off automated systems that everybody else is roasting on. And so we have all these different elements. Then we have our lifestyle element, and it's like, how do you tell and we go back to Katie, you know, Katie, like right now they're trying to figure out how to take all these cool elements of what we do and put it into a 3 sentences. Like, how do you do it? How do you combine all that?
I think you talk about it.
Yeah, I can't get in front of everybody.
No, but I think I'm just sitting here listening to you talk about how passionate you are about your brand, how damn cool the product is, how much you put into it. That's compelling. And I told some of this on the last podcast. People buy from brands, but more so they end up buying from people, right? That's a more effective sale. Like for instance, in our business, I run ads to acquire new restaurant clients through my own personal social pages. Actually, I don't run it through our Misfit Media Instagram or Facebook, whatever. I run it through Brett Linkletter's Instagram, my Instagram. And I'm this guy in front of them on the newsfeed. Hey, are you a restaurant owner and do you need help getting customers? Or are you a franchise, a little frustrated with your corporate strategy? Like, check this out. Right. And so
for sure,
I think you like, I don't know. I'm just spitballing now. You got a good damn story.
I think you're doing it with your podcast. And I think I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to like interacting with social media. I mean, if you look at how many followers we have on Instagram, it's kind of sad. And it's, you know, even doing podcasts, like we were late to show up for that because we were so focused on our infrastructure and building our company. So now that, you know, and I appreciate you having me on today, like the more we could do this, the more I can, you know, echo my story and get it out to as many mediums and people as possible. But we're just getting started. So, you know, again, the first part was building the solid core of the company. And now, you know, we utilize people like yourself to help, you know.
Totally. But I think it's awesome. What about, okay, well, I know Gary, speaking of Gary, I know he's big on this. What about TikTok? You guys on TikTok yet?
We don't do TikTok. TikTok. And I know,
I sense some hesitation.
There's if my creative director Joe was on this call with us, he would probably try to come through the screen to strangle you right now. Like we're on such overload with like trying to get out to as many mediums as possible.
But here's the thing about TikTok. You said you're late to Instagram, maybe, And I'm on Instagram. My brand's on Instagram. Instagram though, as of lately, man, it's tough to grow the channel. It's tough to reach people. TikTok, I'll tell you this, me personally, I made an account a couple months ago. I'm at 6,000 followers just by posting cool shit about what I'm talking about. And look, it's not that hard. It's still new. You guys have all this cool video footage doing all this cool stuff. I mean, I look at that as you got a cool damn story that you could talk about on TikTok. It's not going to take you much time. I mean, I would say when you're down doing this thing in Argentina, little selfie video.
It's something that we need to open the door further on and look into for sure. I think there's a lot of platforms. What's the other one? Twitch. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Twitch because Twitch is it's a gaming platform, but businesses are starting to utilize it now. So there's so many. And, so what I'm trying to do is those are not the things that I'm really good at. And we're just trying to build out the team that can run with that the best. But I don't disagree with you at all.
I think, Twitch is more of a gamer thing. Yeah, you're right. Maybe there's opportunity there. I don't know a whole lot about Twitch either. I own a social media marketing agency, so I'm always looking at these things. But for me right now, and by the way, Gary was a big inspiration for me to even get on TikTok to begin with. Man, TikTok for me has just been so interesting. Your ability to create an account and go viral is nuts. And because you have, like Gary said to yourself, you have all this cool content already. You just got to get it out.
Yeah. So we're trying to figure out, and I think that we're getting there is, we know what our story is. We're not trying to tell our story to the audience. We have a lot to be proud of in what we do, but we're actually starting to evaluate who's actually going and buying coffee online. And so, what I'm trying to understand, and maybe you can explain it to me with TikTok, it is what I think to be a younger group of
everyone says that. Everyone says that, but it's not. It's growing like nuts. So
yeah. So our segment where we do best with is 28 to 40. That's the age bracket that we sell a lot of product to. So you know what, I'm gonna walk away from this and talk to my team, and we're gonna get moving with TikTok.
Hell yeah. Add me at Brett Linklater. Let's be friends. I mean, honestly, I look, I'm the same way. My clientele is probably average age, 40 to 60 restaurateur, right? So I'm on TikTok, and some would say, what the hell are you on TikTok for? That's not your clientele. There's no restaurateurs on TikTok. I went live on TikTok 2 weeks ago, just talking about, some random marketing funnels and whatnot. And the owner of a hotel in the Midwest reached out to me and she goes, hey, we also have a restaurant in our hotel. Can I talk more about with you? And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. I mean, it will surprise you.
What's your take on Instagram Live? Do you think it's something that has become a bit of an annoyance, or do you think that it's still powerful? What's your take on that? Do you get involved on Instagram Live much, or?
I think Instagram Live is great. It's just you got to have a large following for it to be effective. I mean, the way I look at it is this. I tell all our clients too is social media. Everyone's on it, right? But they've made it so incredibly hard to reach people organically now. Honestly, unfortunately, that's why I like TikTok, because it's still easy. But running, what we do is running ads, targeting people through social, but then collecting phone numbers, emails, and actually we utilize Facebook Messenger quite a bit. Facebook Messenger is awesome because you can create this one-on-one communication with the customer or a potential customer. I don't want to add another channel to your guys' Rolodex to look at now too with Messenger, but no, I mean, look, Instagram is king, Facebook is king. When I look at something TikTok, you can literally post one video that's so damn cool, gets 1 million views. Now you have 50,000 followers in 1 week. And that's not a crazy thing to happen. I mean, I'm serious. So it's worth looking at. I
appreciate the inspiration to.
Yeah, man. So Adam, if anyone is interested in working with you guys, any restaurateurs listening to this, or anyone in general, like myself, that's probably going to want to continue buying from you direct, how do they do so?
So I mean, they can email us directly. It's my email. It's always available, adam@afficionadocoffee.com. We can just get a message through Instagram, or give us a call. It's pretty straightforward. And we're always looking for partnerships. I mean, that's the biggest thing for us. every one of our clients is viewed as like a partnership. We like to work with the best in their craft, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I can speak from experience. You guys have really damn good coffee, and you can tell by my energy today. It's the perfect amount of caffeine. It is amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what. Anybody that we can get to try our product, if they put in the notes, I wish I knew previously. I would have did a promo code, but if they just put in the notes that they watched our segment today, we'll throw in a free bag of coffee or something like that for them.
Yes. Okay, guys, if you're listening, you hear this, you want some good damn coffee, do that. You'll get an extra bag. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, I hope to see you on TikTok sometime the next week or so.
Yeah.
Add me if you find me, Brett Linkletter, and let's be friends. Anyway, man, thank you so much for today. That was amazing. That was really great. I'm gonna keep enjoying your coffee, obviously, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Brett, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Thanks.